The circumstances that bring us here are sort of strange. Some breaking news. Charlie and Keith couldn't be here to deliver it. Charlie is like super bogged down and jammed up at Easterns right now. And of course, Keith is coming back from a Renaissance festival, so he's not able to make it. Breaking news. It's going to be the talk of the news cycle for at least the next couple weeks. But Pat, why don't you tell us what we've learned?
Yeah, we've been doing some deep cover investigation reporting over the past couple years, which sort of eaten up a lot of our time and bandwidth, hunting down the missing USAU annual reports. USAU used to put out reports every year detailing what they were spending money on, like what projects they were investing in. And then during the pandemic, they stopped putting them out and then continued to not put them out afterwards, even once play resumed. And we were able to get a hold of these missing reports, and this is bombshell stuff. There are items in here and we only have the tip of the iceberg. Like, we're still going through it. It's like the JFK docs, it's like 65,000 pages. So we're like still wading our way through, but there's some stuff that really already jumps out. Yeah,
we've had a team of interns combing the files since their release, and it's a shame that Charlie and Keith couldn't be here. Because
it's more like a hard news thing. That's really more their vibe.
It's their lane. Yeah. Right. But it's an honor, I think, for us to be, part of this news story. And if Keith weren't wearing like a very buxom corset right now, selling grog, which is his passion outside of Ultimate, he would be here to deliver that news. So I want to make that very clear. Like, it's not because they didn't want to be here.
Right. Just some headlines that jump out at me. There's some different categories that these fall into, like some investments, some, like projects that they were working on, and some just kind of outright failures or incompetence. Like right at the top here, they attempted to buy the naming rights for the term Frisbee, which I think is something that we could support. Again,
Goodbye.
We call it Frisbee again. Right. But they ended up getting scammed into purchasing the life rights of an unexceptional German man named Fritz B. So you have to wonder what kind of oversight is actually existing at this organization if they're falling for stuff like this.
Another troubling thing that jumped out at me is USAU made a one-time good faith payment of $200 to the regulars at the bar across the street from USA Ultimate headquarters in Colorado Springs to get them to quit calling Ultimate loser ball, which was also an unsuccessful venture on their part.
Yeah, there's a lot of these ventures, like some of them seem a little far-fetched. Like they put $16,000 into research and development on cones that, quote, set themselves up, which I thought was a little strange. There's a line item here for it's a psyop to make dogs worse at catching Frisbees. I'm glad to see that they're coming up with ideas, but this really seems like irresponsible use of dues money for members.
$1,200 in 2022 for plainclothes security at the finals of college nationals in an effort to prevent people from yelling penis during the puller's backswing. Like, spirit of the game, I get it, but at the same time, do we have that kind of money?
Yeah, I don't. It just really makes you question judgment. And remember, it used to be the UPA. We had transparency. You knew what your dollar was going towards. And now it's, just look at these things. Payoffs to Mitch Dangler's employer funding a mafia-style no-show job that enables him to travel around the country observing 30 tournaments a year. I actually support this one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, no, this is a good one.
Mitch needs a W-2, a nice, clean W-2.
Yeah.
Pat, I don't know if you had made it this far in the findings, but in 2007, then the UPA had the ability to buy the International Quidditch Association for $27. Didn't do it. Could have crushed them. Sort of like when Blockbuster could have bought Netflix for like $1 million. Mm-hmm. Same idea.
Right.
And now Quidditch is poaching all of the nerds who would be getting involved in Ultimate at the college level, just right out from under us. It's a lot of due-paying members left on the table.
And we would prefer that Charlie was here to get into this, break it all down, But unfortunately, in addition to being swamped with Eastern's work last night at a seafood place in Wilmington, he insisted on preparing his own fugu, which is the toxic pufferfish. And he's now leaking liver bile out of his eyes as a result. Had like a real close call with death earlier this morning.
Charlie can be really headstrong. Our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Pat, quick announcement. Keith has been named Maiden of the Woodlands, Cuyahoga County. It just came through. So if you see Keith, congratulate him. That's awesome. Some of you are working for a long time. So good on him.
And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't had time to get into everything. So we uploaded all of the documents into an unreasonably large PDF at www.followthemoney.com. So please try to get in there and see what else that is alarming and necessary for the community to check out is buried in these missing reports.
Whoa. What the heck was that? We have this thing back? Do we have this thing back? Is my mic on?
I think Sue's got us back in control here. I think we're back in. What? Can someone tell us what they just said?
Well, Keith, I just wanted to congratulate you on your success at the Ren Fair. It's really an impressive performance for you. Hopefully you can bring some of that to this show, some of that energy.
Look, Maiden of the Woodlands is really an underrated prize, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I think a lot of people doubted me along the way, so let me tell you, man, corset is it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable, but I went through it to get the win. You know, you got to sacrifice for the greater good.
Well, thank you to Pat and Tad for the lovely introduction today. Check out followthemoney.com. That's where we're breaking it all down. It's going to take me and Keith a little time to sift through everything after our weekend. So instead, I think for today's show, we're going to focus on the end of the college season, Easterns, and all that good stuff. See, we can save the USAU reports for another day. Yeah, Keith?
Yeah. We got enough stuff to go through, and we'll finish with the USAU stuff when we get to it.
All right. Well, it's time for our trivia question of the week.
All right. This week's trivia question of the week actually comes in via email, and so I was asked, like, hey, what do you think the answer is to this trivia question? And I did the research, and we've got one for you here. And that question is, Charlie, how many plural team names, so team names that are plural, have made club nationals? And I went back to 2014, so the last 10 nationals. How many plural team names have made club nationals? I'm going to give you multiple choice on this. Okay. Club nationals. I'm going to give you multiple choice on this, but first, how many can you think of? How many even plural team names do you think you can think of right now?
So, just quick question, clarifying question. If the concept is plural, but the word is singular, are we counting that as a singular?
Can you give me an example? I'll tell you.
I have to go through some names in my head. I mean, like Riot, sort of.
No, it's got to be a plural word.
A plural word. Okay, fine. How many can I even think of? Not a lot.
It's hard. When I first thought the question, I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to do all this research. But
Fury, Riot.
Once you started going down, it was
Sixers. There's one.
Tough.
Sixers
in the chat.
So you want the number of total teams?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
And then you take some time to think about it. And I'll tell folks about what we got going on over at Breakmark. Here are your choices: A, 7, B, 10, C, 19, and D, 22. So 7, 10, 19, and 22.
And this is out of
the past 10 seasons, all three
480 teams, right? I mean, 480 slots. Obviously,
Right.
not nearly that many teams. Probably like less than 100 teams. Maybe less than 50 teams. Well, not less than 50.
So you think about which one it might be,
I'm thinking.
and I'll make sure that everybody knows that this is the 20th anniversary of Breakmark. They're celebrating by doing giveaways on Instagram every Friday, and I got those extended into Tuesday so that you folks, yes, you listening, can benefit from our special deal. I'm going to give you a code that can get you double the entries to win free prizes from Breakmark. They gave away some sling bags last week. I wish I got one. I might have to hit them up. Maybe I got to go enter in the code myself. And the code this week is PUL25. It's the start of the Premier Ultimate League season. So PUL25 is this week's code. You go to visit Breakmark on Instagram, hit them with a follow. And when you enter in to win the free prizes, just add the code PUL25. You'll get double the chances to win. And they're the official jersey provider for both the Western Ultimate League and the Premier Ultimate League. They're friends of the pod. Make sure to go in, put in PUL25 on your entry at Breakmark on Instagram to get a better chance to win some of that free swag. All right, Charlie. What are you thinking here? We've got 7, 10, 19, and 22.
It's got to be more than 7 because like I just know that, Sixers has probably made it 5 or 6 times themselves.
Well, I'm individual team names. Doesn't matter how many. If Sixers made it at all.
Thank you for the clarity.
Just one.
Thank you for the clarity. I see. Condors, polar bears came to mind during the break. What was the second answer? 12?
7, 10, 19, and 22. 10 is the second.
19 seems like too many. I'm going to go 10.
All right. It is in fact 10. There are 10 teams that meet this qualification. Many of which are being named were named in the chat. Sixers, Capitals. I think those are the only 2 women's division teams, both from Canada, which is kind of like the same program, basically. Funny to me. And then in the mixed division, we had 5 Crocs, polar bears, cocktails, 7 figures, and administrators. I bet a lot of people forget about administrators.
Wait, administrators made nationals one time?
I think so. So, and then in the men's division, Condors, Killjoys, and as somebody asked, is Mad Men plural? Mad Men to me is plural. Like men is a plural word. So, Mad Men is the one that doesn't end in S, the tricky one. Someone said Ghosts, which is close. I think they just missed the cutoff. Like they were like the year before. There were like 3 or 4 teams that were just outside of this this time frame. Like mental toss fly coons is another like S1, but shrimp. Someone asked shrimp. I'm saying shrimp is singular, but in the absence of other evidence, we're going with singular. It could be either, but I'm going to say singular.
I would assume that it's plural. It's like a collective
I don't think
group
that's a
of
fair
shrimp
assumption
on the team.
Yeah, but what if they're not? What if together?
There's somebody
they're all
from Shrimp listening right now. Shrimp. You should say whether you mean it to be singular or plural.
For clarity, just for this question. Yeah, that's our trivia question of the week. So there you go.
All right, good stuff. It is interesting how few there are overall. Like I think some of that must have to do with just a lot of these teams were made 15 plus years ago. And at the time, the style, especially in the women's division, but just in general, was to have like, Riot, Brute Squad, Fear, like that singular style just inked all these team names a long time ago. All right. Easterns. What a tournament. What a tournament. I saw some folks in the chat say it was the most fun they've had watching Ultimate in a long time. And quite the event this year, and so much to break down from this tournament. The highs, the lows, some crazy comeback wins, and just a sneak preview of nationals. Colorado, in the end of the day, gets the win 15-12 over UMass after making a furious comeback to beat UNC in semis on Universe. UMass looked fantastic right up until they lost to Colorado. And man, does this rewrite the narratives for this season, Keith? I mean, what do you make of Colorado's success this weekend and what it tells us moving forward for this Mama Bird team?
You certainly have to consider them firm title contenders at this point, and I think it would be hard to navigate a favorite. I think you said last week that the winner of this tournament would be the favorite, and I think you could certainly make that argument. Colorado, when you look at the resume in total now, they have wins over UNC, over UMass, over SLO, over Oregon. I mean, these are many of the other top teams you would point to. Yes, Carleton as well. They beat Carleton at SMI. Yes, they have some losses that you're maybe less excited about with Northeastern and Cal on the record, but I think going 7-0 at Easterns is going to really shine up a lot of things. And getting a win over UMass, in which for a little while it looked like they may just run UMass out of the gym. They were up like 5-1 in that game. So UMass able to fight back, but Colorado able to hold them off. And another thing about Colorado that impressed me was that they were. I think it would be really tempting to kind of gravitate towards, oh, this is Tobias Brooks and friends, and they are not that. They are not dependent on Tobias Brooks to score. They are obviously, he makes their team a lot better. He's a key part of why they're successful, but this team has more going on than that, and they're deeper than that. And I think this weekend was definitely proof positive.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I still think there's a lot of possibilities at Nationals. Colorado clearly in that conversation, and their odds have improved, even though I think they were already in the mix for a team that could win the national championship this year. But, to get kind of like biggish wins over Oregon and Cal Poly and UMass is very encouraging for this Mama Bird team. Now, they could very easily have lost to UNC. And if that matchup happens again at Nationals, like, I wouldn't blame you if you had it as a UNC -1.5 type situation, because it's Nationals and it's UNC. But obviously, this Mama Bird team has the goods, right? They are. I mean, I know you say it's not Tobias Brooks and friends, and that's certainly true, but it is fair to say that if they did not have Tobias Brooks, they would not be winning these games, Keith. I mean, he is arguably the best player in the division right now.
That's a fun conversation in and of itself. I mean, we have I don't know which is tighter, the race to be the number one favorite or the race to be the best player in the division. The top 25 rankings, I think, are going to be an exercise in futility trying to suss out which of the best players in the division should be above the others, because you have a pretty thick group of like probably 5 or 6 guys, maybe 7, that you could, I think, make a compelling case for being the best player in the division right now.
I mean, Toby's had like multiple no-look assists this season. And like that does not a great player make. But I feel like his error rate has gone down and his like big plays, like percentage has gone up. The throwing looks amazing. And this is with a group of players on this Mama Bird team that it's always a deep team. They always are going to have good players down to 20 on their roster. And we knew this team was going to be good, but I have to say, I think it's hard to have expected them to come out here and win Easterns in this fashion. But it's very exciting, and I think that you still look at those teams in semis at this tournament, and those do feel like the most credible teams to win a title. And for me right now, it's probably, does Colorado get the top spot now? Maybe not quite. I probably go UNC, Colorado, UMass, Oregon, like Carleton, SLO, probably in that order. Am I missing somebody?
I don't think so. I think you've cut the top tier.
So, I mean, but I think any of those teams can win.
What's your read on Oregon after this weekend? Obviously a pretty disappointing performance in the semis against UMass, and losing to Colorado in pool play means that their two biggest games of the weekend when they got their chances to play against other teams that were in that category. I guess they did get the win over Carleton in quarters. They didn't meet the occasion. I feel like, to me, this team has felt like they haven't hit the ceiling that we thought was capable for them. What's your read on Ego right now?
Well, I mean, let's look at the resume a little bit, just like overall the season. They have a win over Colorado, albeit from February. They have a win over Carolina, albeit in a consolation game at Easterns, which, don't read too much into that. I think the only team that they have not beaten that they've played is UMass. They have one matchup and they lost it pretty soundly, 15-11. Ultimately, I think they have the tools. Whether they will gel enough to make a run at nationals, I am more skeptical of. They feel like they're in tier 2.
They
tier
made a
1
lot
is
of
Colorado,
mistakes.
UNC, UMass. Yeah.
And the conditions weren't great either. I mean, UMass made a lot of errors too, but I do worry about the potential for this Oregon team to lay an egg when it matters.
I think it's fair. I mean, they, after winning Pres Day, which was a mostly soft field, besides their wins over Colorado and Oregon State. And at the time, that 13-8 win over Colorado looks great, but they have been obviously very good, but not great. And they're not winning games by much margin in a lot of cases. I don't feel super confident in their chances to win, but I think they have the pieces on the roster to make it happen. And you never know, they could catch fire at the right time. But they feel like a team that's probably going to lose in semis.
They also,
quarters.
I think, will benefit from having a really challenging regionals. I think that's going to help sharpen them in a way that maybe some of the other teams are not going to quite get the same test.
Sure. Are you worried about UNC for blowing that game against Colorado? I don't make much of the Oregon loss for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm not putting much stock in that. It's hard not to think of last year when you see UNC blowing a big lead in semis at a tournament. But you think of what we saw this team do, sans Dameron at SMI, and you think of how good Dameron looks individually. I mean, you said it. I think that it's fair to put them in as the favorite right now, and I think that tells you what you need to know about whether or not you need to be worried about Darkside.
I do think that it's worth wondering if they have some issues with crunch time. I mean, you don't want to draw too much conclusion from one or two games, and they did get some close wins, multiple close wins at SMI en route to an undefeated performance. But when the lights get bright and a team starts making a comeback against them, they have showed some signs of shakiness in those spots. That doesn't take away from the fact that I still think they're the favorite, but it's a potential cause for concern, and I think it gives their opponents that even if they're behind, they can tell themselves, "Hey, we've seen it before. We can make this comeback." And having that belief against a team that is the dynastic program like UNC can be super helpful. How about UMass? They've been very, very, very good, but maybe not quite great this season. They've taken a loss at every tournament they've played so far.
Often to the best team at that tournament, often in the final.
Yeah,
I mean they're so deep, and they're so decentralized in how they operate. And Ethan Lehman's having a tremendous season. Maybe been the best player on the team at points, but Gavin Abramson and Carter Hawkins and Ethan Schiff and obviously Luca Harwood, You got to talk about Mason Stone. He's going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year, I think. And they're super deep. They get a ton of strong performances from all over the roster. And I think they feel like the most rock solid team. I don't know if I would say they have the most, like,
Yes.
they're my favorites to win the title, but they feel like they would be my favorites to make semis. And they feel like the team
High floor.
least likely to get upset in quarters.
100%. And Wyatt Kelman makes his season debut. If he's back at full strength and ready to roll when we get around to nationals, I mean, they're going to be very tough out. They definitely have the horses. So I think, the odds of UNC, Colorado, or UMass winning the title, combined odds is probably like 75%, with then 25% to those next three teams, or 22% and 3% to the field. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Maybe I'd tweak the numbers.
So
a little
Brown
bit, but
comes
not
out of
much.
nowhere.
Yeah, Brown with the they just turn it on again.
I mean, to be honest, that's why I like Slow, because I really like their top end, and I feel like they have the players at the top of that roster to do a little bit of the Jacques and Leo thing from last year and make a crazy run. I know that their resume isn't like spectacular, and they were missing guys at one point for U24s earlier this season, but those players did look quite good, and they kind of got buzzsawed by Colorado in quarters. But I still think that when we get down to nationals, that like they have the potential, they have the ceiling. Maybe their floor is lower.
I'm worried about what happens after the top end. After their top 4 or 5 guys.
I think that's why
I feel like they were much deeper last year. Yeah,
uneven result.
They took a step back. Yeah.
Can we talk about Pitt? Is this the worst Pitt performance? Is this the worst Pitt performance we've seen at a college regular season tournament like in 10 years? They go 0-4 in pool play. They lose to Georgia Tech, slow Wilmington by 5, and they get absolutely annihilated by Carleton 13-2. Then they lose to Michigan to start the day on Sunday before getting consolation wins against NC State and JMU. That is an ugly resume. What's going on? They just don't have the players anymore, Keith.
And wasn't that an Aaron Bartlett-less Michigan team? Is that it? I think I saw someone say that he was not playing. I don't. This was off the radar for me that we were going to see a Pitt fall off. Like, I think expecting them not to be able to replicate the heights of last season was reasonable, but I still look at the roster and I see a lot of guys that I think can execute. They have some top end to be excited about, but yeah, there's got to be some soul searching right now for this team, because they're going to go into an Ohio Valley Regionals that figures to be a real race to the top. Like, it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to be at nationals this year. I mean, they might not be in our top 25 by the time they get to regionals.
I mean, Frisbee rankings has them at 28th. They did beat Penn State 15-14 at SMI. And, I would bet a lot of money on that being the final. And I think it could go either way. I think those teams are very evenly matched. And, it wasn't, it's not like Penn State's been beaten down the doors. I mean, they've had a solid season, but they didn't do great at Easterns. They went 3-4. Maybe a slightly better resume than Pitt's, but more on expectations than anything else. But yeah, I mean, OV men's final is going to be one of the games to watch at regionals.
Pittsburgh has been ranked for the entirety of the existence of Multi-World Power Rankings.
Could they drop out?
I'm looking at. I think the lowest they've ever been is 17. So, I mean, if you're looking for low tide, I guess this meets the criteria. I don't know if they're going to drop out, but I think you got to put them on watch.
What else from Easterns, Keith?
Well, what are we doing with New England right now? I mean, Vermont went 2-5,
Holy smokes.
lose to Tufts and Northeastern, also lose to Wilmington and Minnesota. So Tufts suddenly on the map, so to speak. Northeastern, I was high on them coming into this tournament. I expect them to finish second in Pool B. I expected them to push towards semifinals. They come out, they go 3-4. I don't know. I don't know what to make of New England after UMass right now.
Does it matter? I mean, here's the thing. Regional is going to be electric because projections have them getting 3 bids. UMass obviously going to take one of those. Then you have Brown, Tufts, Northeastern, and Vermont all inside the top 20 right now in the USAU rankings.
And whatever Canadian teams show up, who knows?
So the fight for those 2 bids is going to be pretty epic. I give a lot of credit to Brown and their ability to get the most out of their team, and they've always showed up well at regionals for years now. And this wasn't an amazing tournament for Brown. They lost to Oregon. They got crushed by Colorado, but they beat everybody else. They've been, the best of the rest. They're going to be around probably 10th, 11th, 12th in our power rankings. I expect them to be at nationals, and so that kind of leaves one spot for somebody between Tufts, Northeastern, and Vermont. I have no idea what to expect there. I think that all those teams are super well evenly matched. And my expectations for the region have gone way down for our nationals. I mean, UMass, great, but everybody else is going to be happy to make pre-quarters.
Wild times. I mean, this has been a pretty surprising season in some real meaningful ways. And you look at I had high expectations for Vermont this year, and maybe it's not time to sell on those altogether. You don't necessarily need to sell low. But it's been a really up and down season for them.
For sure. I think, it's crunch time now, right? We're going into the postseason. You don't have the 4 or 5 bid cushion in New England now. And so, you got to go in and you got to earn it at regionals. And maybe that experience of sharpening up for that tournament can help you at nationals. Fascinating weekend. Tons of great tape up on Ultiworld if you missed it live. So make sure you check out all the video coverage. Pretty much 2 games around, and lots of D3 coverage as well. So we will chat about that in a bit. So let's talk about some other big key tournaments this weekend. Obviously not with the cachet of Easterns, but important for the bid conversation. Why don't we start with Huck Finn? Huck Finn, WashU hosted. They're the heavy favorite coming in to their home tournament. Not really anybody else of relevance in the field inside of that, top tier D1. And what happens? They get smacked down by Davenport, who goes undefeated and beats WashU 9-5 in the final. Davenport, the class of D3 right now. And I mean, let's just start with this result itself. Davenport over WashU. Are you surprised, Keith?
Am I surprised? I guess yes. I mean, I picked WashU over Davenport, and I had to hem and haw a little bit even to get Davenport into the finals. So I don't want to give myself too much credit for getting that right. In some ways, that you can see how you get here if you put the right pieces of the puzzle together. But it's also really easy to put together remember that WashU that we saw at warm up to start the year? Remember, you look at the top end of this roster, they should be the easy favorites. Davenport beating them is a big shock. But if you also think about some of the results that WashU has put up the rest of the season and some of the things we've seen from Davenport, then it's not so surprising. And what's funny to me in all of this, right? We were talking about what a big tournament this was for WashU from a bid standpoint, how they needed to perform well. And on its face, getting upset by a D3 team feels like it should be bad. But this honestly may be a reasonable result for their ranking, because Davenport's ranked so high.
I love that I know that you coached this weekend because your voice is still a little
It's
tender
no shot. Yeah.
and it's been like
Oh yeah.
36 hours or something.
Almost specifically because my team wasn't calling picks. That was basically the thing that triggered it.
It did have the Davenport loss did have the most negative effect on their ranking of any result this season, and that makes sense. But let's give credit to Davenport, who from this weekend jumps up 30 spots and is 11th in all of men's college ultimate, not D3. They are way far out in front for D3. They are 11th overall, and you start to wonder, like, are we going to see Davenport go D1 next year? I mean, they're in a region where they could, I mean, they might be the best team in the Great Lakes right now. By ranking, they are. Like, Davenport is 11th, Chicago is 35th, Michigan is 36th, Purdue is 51st. Like, why not go D1? If you're trying to like get some notoriety for the university and everything with the scholarship program, but they still have to go out and earn it at D3 Nationals. And I think, people are extrapolating this result to mean that they're going to just mop everybody. Maybe, but it's a different thing when you're in the pressure cooker at Nationals. They will be the heavy favorite, though.
They remind me a lot of the Kyle Heike OC teams that also had some pretty impressive regular season results, beating some strong D1 competition, like, borderline Nationals teams. I think are probably around the same positioning as WashU, and they're going to go in, I think, as the heavy favorites into D3 Nationals. And I think we could be looking back at this next year, talking about Davenport being the favorite in the Great Lakes in D1 and being like, yep, we saw this coming. The trajectory is right there. And for many teams, I think that it's an interesting conversation about which is more valuable, being the best team in D3 or being a team that could make D1 Nationals and maybe push for the bracket. I don't know which is more glorious, but I do think that from the university standpoint, the D1 success is probably better. So I'll be curious to see how this unfolds. But right now, that they're a heavy favorite going into D3 Nationals, and they've earned that respect, I think.
Let me ask you a simple question. If Davenport was playing at D1 Regionals, who are you taking to win Great Lakes Regionals in this year?
I'm standing with my concerns about Chicago that kept me from picking them to make the final of this tournament. I don't know when their best players are going to play with them. It seems like a crapshoot. I have to bet on Michigan. There's just so many years of success. They do have top end talent. I don't know what's going on with them. I think everybody's kind of been willing to chalk it up to like, why should they try very hard in the regular season? They know they're going to get one bid. They might as well focus on development so that they're in the best position to do well at regionals. I would think that they want to get some nice wins at Easterns to like show that the systems are working right. But I think that's probably giving them a little too much credit. So I still think I would make them the favorite though, but I would not feel super confident about it.
Give me Davenport. Absolutely. I mean, WashU played Michigan and beat them 13-8 at warm-up. Now, Davenport had the opportunity to prepare a lot for WashU going into this tournament, probably knowing that they were going to see them, feeling confident they were going to make the final. And, but the same thing would be true about Michigan. I think like Davenport, I think they're clearly the best team in the Great Lakes right now. So
YouTube chat, some interesting thoughts. The WashU, George, who says he's the WashU coach, says Davenport played very well in the final, have a really strong top 7. It was really windy. WashU went up 5-3 and then just couldn't get back their O-line back off the field. And EMF says that he heard that Davenport's going D1 next year. So they're thinking about it too, I guess, if the word's on the street about it.
Yep. I mean, it makes sense. In another region, they probably wouldn't do it. But in the Great Lakes, I think it makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about East Coast Invite. Keith, you were there. How was it? Was it windy?
It was somewhat windy. It went from between, there were some rounds where it was pretty calm, but for much of the time, it was like a 10, 12 mile per hour wind, I'd say. It felt a bit like a thrower's wind, like enough wind to run zone, but not enough that you couldn't play ultimate. Now you did hit both of the fringes though. Like at the end of Sunday, it was silly time. It was very windy, and there were definitely points where it both calmed down or picked up. But for much of the time, I think it was kind of that thrower's win that made the game playable, but challenging if you were not a strong thrower.
I mean, look, this is women's division. Tufts absolutely mopped everybody. No surprise. 15-9 over MIT is the only like whole thing from the weekend that you maybe like look twice at. Absolute beatdown, 13-4 of Notre Dame in the final. Notre Dame made a push to try to climb up and get the Great Lakes a second bid, but looks like they fell short. Southwest sitting with 6 bids. We'll talk bid picture in just a sec, but I like a decent weekend for Notre Dame, all things considered. I mean, Tufts is that good. Like Tufts is arguably the favorite to win a national championship. They're 18-0. They're the only undefeated team up near the top. And, they don't get much of a challenge at this tournament, but they also passed the test with flying colors.
They certainly did. I mean, they looked apart. They should be in all of the conversations as a title contender. There's nothing they did at this weekend to make me doubt them in any way. I found the format really compelling. We ended up with so the way that it works is you get 4 games. You're not in pools. They're just 4 match play games, and then it's by record. So all the 4-0 teams got into the top 8. You cut to quarters, and then there's a bunch of 3-1 teams. And the tiebreaker for your record is like an algorithmic USAU algorithm, but run just for this tournament. So, a good way to handle imbalanced schedules. And I'm sure that left some teams feeling spurned. It's like, oh, we went 3-1. We did really well. We beat so-and-so, and maybe they made it, or we beat this other team that beat the team that got in. But like, ultimately, I think your fate was somewhat in your own hands. If the teams you were playing weren't that good, you should have beat them by more. And as I coach a team that went 3-1 and didn't make the top bracket, and I don't think that our resume really should have pushed us in there. So I get the frustration, but it also meant that the 9 through 16 bracket that we ended up in was still pretty competitive. Like you still had good teams who had gone 3-1 or 2-2 the previous day. So I actually thought it worked really well, and it was kind of fun. It felt a little bit like waiting for the tourney brackets to come out for March Madness. That you're waiting to find out, okay, who made the cut out of the 3? Like we don't know. They came out at like 9 p.m. or something. You're like waiting to see, like, okay, we don't know who made the cut. It's just TBD on the website. Yep. So it was actually kind of fun to sit and wait to find out who you're going to face and how you ended up doing on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is like a warm-up light, like I said before the tournament. I think it makes a lot of sense. I imagine you feel like you got more balanced games than you normally would at a tournament where it just had straight pools. Yes?
Absolutely. I think this is, and it was probably tough for Tufts to find balanced games, but I think also you had a field of teams that were very similar. Like aside from Tufts, I think a lot of these groups there's a lot of results that could have gone the other way, and a lot of teams of similar caliber. So I think that also lended itself to this format being effective because it just felt like you had good games basically every round.
Anyway, that is that. It didn't end up really tipping bids in the women's division. Let's take a look at that now. Let's go to the frisbeerankings.com. We don't have official USAU rankings out yet. Last year, it took them until Friday to get official rankings out, so it could be a little bit of time. But here is your look at the bid cutoff. You see Notre Dame making that push, but they finished just behind BYU and about 20 points shy of UCSB. Now, keep in mind, this is all projections. There's not accounted for all of the games that are going to get dropped or otherwise affected in some way. This could still change. But as it stands, it looks like the Southwest ends up with 6 bids, the Northwest with 5. Keith, an absolute bloodbath for the West Coast, and just 1 bid goes elsewhere, and strength bid, I should say, and that's to the New England, who gets a second bid. Everybody else is looking at 1 bid regional.
This is kind of what we thought was going to be the case. I mean, there were certainly some teams that could have changed things around, but even like you look at the next team up, and it's BYU. They're in the Northwest. We obviously know what's going on with them, but they could have been a part of the bid picture. Western Washington's not that far off. Like there are other other teams from the West that could have helped earn bids. I think, Notre Dame, Virginia, one of the teams that went 2-2 and didn't make the championship bracket, and yet they still probably did more to help themselves than some of the other teams from the ACC. Like, those teams are around the bid bubble. Virginia won't. I don't think they are going to be in position to move up, but there's definitely room for teams to move once the final rankings come out from where the projections are. I don't think they're going to be super dramatic, but you should keep an eye on that last bid slot. But West Coast dominance this year, but that's what we thought coming into the year. The West Coast, it's not just like, the tournament environment was good for them. We thought they looked really strong this year. So when you have a fall off, the big bid move from this tournament from ECI was Northeastern. I mean, they came out and went 0-4 on Saturday, and they were the team, I think, that had a real shot, the best shot to move up with a good weekend, and they had a terrible one. They're not even in this list anymore of the teams on the bubble. They're 27, so they're just off the screen, but just an absolutely terrible result for them. It really sank their chances.
Let's look at the men's side. Eastern's definitely moving some stuff around. You see a dangerous fall for Tufts. They fall 7 spots down to 17th, but they do hold on to a third bid for New England. I mean, I think the hope was for New England was that they were going to end up maybe with a 4th bid. And there's still the question mark of what's going on with BYU, right? I mean, that's I don't know that we have a resolution there. If BYU drops, that means the Northwest will fall to 2 bids. 4 bids. What am I talking about? And then you would pick up a bid for New England. So they may still end up with 4. Again, this is all subject to change. I mean, you can see just how close it is between Northeastern and Georgia, just 3 points apart. But, Brown, Tufts, Northeastern all stacked up right there with Vermont lurking. Means that, it's probably most likely that you end up seeing that extra bid go to New England if BYU does not play at regionals or conferences. So either way, with Georgia sitting there, I mean, unless somehow Georgia Tech gets help by results dropping and you could maybe squint and end up with 2 bids in Southeast somehow, I think it's pretty much a done deal. WashU did enough at Huck Finn to stay there, even though they lost to Davenport. And
the New England teams, I think, didn't really help themselves. We talked a little bit about their performance at Easterns, but Vermont, they fell to 8-14. They dropped. Northeastern dropped. Tufts dropped largely because they lost to Michigan, which kind of tanked their ranking. Brown did go up, but mostly due to the motion of the other New England team. So not a great weekend for New England, who maybe could have put themselves into greater bid success rather than being on the margins where they are now.
Well, by this time next week, we'll have the official bids, and we will discuss some early look ahead to regionals. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to get you ready for the Premier Ultimate League season. It starts this coming weekend. Stay with us. It's Deep Look.
McGrain just muscling Goldstein out, and Goldstein with the improbable catch.
There's more on the line anytime these two teams play. The premier rivalry in the men's college division.
And it's an incredible catch. Williams goes up and he makes the play. Getting over the top. Trying to throw the greatest. And he's going to throw a hammer into the end zone. Big scoober from Stroke. Now to Nethercutt. No, a great grab from Nethercutt to save possession. Now he'll throw the hammer all the way across the field, looking for Hastings, and he toes the line.
Welcome back to Deep Look. Well, the 2025 Premier Ultimate League season is almost here. We get started this weekend with the first games of the season. Remember a year ago, the New York Gridlock getting an impressive win at championship weekend. They take down DC in the final, and they will certainly be a team to watch once again. They bring back some of their key stars. They won't have Manu Cardenas, but Vale's back. Jolie Krebs is back. And Keith, I think losing Manu definitely opens up the question of who is the best player in this league. And maybe that's a good place to start. Who do you see as the preseason front runner? Is it still New York?
To me, it's got to be New York. You know, obviously, Manu is a considerable loss, but they bring in a ton of talent to help replace that. They got Abby Hecko, Liv Player, Ella Young, Sam Harris, Grace Connerly, among others, joining the team. And they return Nina Cartagena and Jolie and Vale and Jenna De Jesus. Chelsea Leaders back this year. After what we saw last year, the way that they controlled that game in the final and the way they played during the regular season, I think they've got to be not just a favorite, but probably a pretty heavy favorite at this point.
I get that. We'll talk about some of their competitors, but first, can you tell us a little bit about Nutsy?
Yeah, if you've been watching a lot of College Ultimate lately, like if you were chilling and hanging out for Easterns weekend and D3 Easterns, then the chances are that you've seen graduates of the National Ultimate Training School playing and coaching all across the country. Nutsy has trained literally thousands of high school Ultimate athletes since 2001, including myself. Join them this summer to help them celebrate 25 years of Ultimate excellence and fun. The National Ultimate Training Camp is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Registration's open now. Sessions A and B, they're over 50% sold out. So if you're thinking about that, jump on it soon. And there's plenty of room in session C. Quick reminder, early bird deadline is April 11th. So you got 10 days. That's a week from Friday. They have scholarships available if cost is going to be an issue for you. You can get more info at www.nutsy.net. Go to Nutsy. Your ultimate career will thank you.
And quick,
Charlie, looking
quick
back
shout
at the BUL. What do you?
Yes.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say quick shouts to Elon for taking down Easterns in Division 3. Maybe the most competitive D3 tournament we've ever seen in the men's division. Even Elon didn't go undefeated. Wesleyan, who they beat in the final, beat them in their opener in the weekend. So it's going to be a really exciting D3 Nationals if Davenport doesn't just crush everybody.
Shout out Wesleyan. You know, let's see Wesleyan well represented in Bellingham. Also shout out Haverford in the women's division for making it all the way to the semis at ECI. Pretty impressive turn for them. They're very good. We'll probably see some of those players play in the PUL, including their coaches. They have a strong group of coaches at Haverford, including Linda Morse and Liz Hart, who are both coming back with Philly this year. Obviously, are we past? Has the expiration date passed on Philly Surge playoff committee jokes? Are we done with that? I hope so.
No, I think you could keep making the jokes, but I also think that the what has passed is the championship window for Philly.
Yeah, I mean they're losing Raha Masfari and Emma Soilis and Sumionoe, among others, but they do return a really strong, AMP focused group. I mentioned Morrison Hart, Grace Maroon, Lindsay McKenna, Danielle Walsh, Nat Bova. Like that's kind of that core of the team, and obviously that draws a lot on AMP. I don't know that they're bringing in a lot of like players to necessarily replace the impacts that they lost. I think that'll be a challenge for them, but there are ways to pick up other pieces of the team to get better, to help them compete. But I think it's going to be a tough ask to see them go out and improve so much that they can take down New York.
Yeah, and I think you also still have to look at DC because a team that has Claire Trope and Cammie Groom headlining the roster is going to be a team to be reckoning with. I mean, probably the favorites to make the finals again, even if you don't think that they have quite enough depth to beat New York. They do lose some key pieces, and I don't know. Maybe they're marginally worse than last year, but I still think any team with Claire Trope on it is going to have a chance. And that's how I feel about this Shadow team.
I think from a roster standpoint, yeah, maybe they're marginally worse, but they probably are just about even. And I think a lot of it's going to be, what do they do during the season? What's their attendance like? Can they come up with the clutch games? Should they get them? Those are going to be defining for DC. But yeah, I think you feel pretty confident penciling them in for another run deep into the postseason here at championship weekend.
How you feel about the Radiants down in Raleigh? Do they belong in the
I don't know.
Conversation?
Last year was pretty
brutal, man.
You got to be pretty shaken after last year.
That was brutal.
They lose some key players. Look, they still have some of the best players in the league, like Don Colton and Mary Rippey and Alex Barnett. They're going to be talented. Karen Gerhardt's back this year, but they've continued to lose experienced players. We talked about Connerly going to New York. They lose Gina Titcomb, Bridget Meisner, Tyler Smith, Ashley Powell. It's a lot of throwing power for this team. So I wonder, are they going to be able to build the handler core necessary as we see the Radiance roster? And not a lot of big names besides Earhart rejoining the team. I think coming in, Ellen Yu's been pretty successful. They're going to be still good, but we need to see them come out and get a big win, I think, to feel confident about them. They need to go up and try and take down a top team to make you believe that they're going to be in contention this year.
Well, Austin was the team to knock them off. Let's talk about Austin real quick. I mean, they were a surprise to make it last year. I don't think a lot of people are going to pick them to go this year, but they did in fact make it last year. They didn't really have much of a chance in semis, but there's enough talent here for this team to still be dangerous in their division.
And they're losing some core like veterans, like folks who have been a big part of this organization for a long time. But they're picking up Lo Guerin, who's could push to be an all league level player out of the gates. They're getting Emma Berrigan back. That's a lot of like size and athleticism to add to this team. So I think that they could repeat their performance last year, which, I don't know if necessarily if they literally just played as well as they did last year, I don't know if they would make the postseason again. They were that close to not getting in. It was so touch and go, but I think they would give themselves a shot. They need to improve. Like, I know it's a big ask, but if they want to, improve upon last season, if they want to get to championship weekend and be competitive at their events, like, they're going to have to take some steps forward. They have the tools to do that. I think you could see growth for Clara Stewart and Maddie Cannon. I think, getting Guerin in could really give this team a boost, but they're going to need growth along the way in order to achieve that goal, because the competition is pretty tough.
Well, before we take a look at the schedule for the season, I want to just take a look at answer the most important question that we have here. Who did the best with their roster release? So let's take a look at all of the roster releases right now. And I like this torch one we're looking at right now, but here's all of them. What do you like, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the torch one, like you. I think that's probably my favorite. I guess if you're discounting the surge for like being spread out, I think I would also, like you say, the torch is my favorite. Radiance one is nice and clean too. I actually nice. Like the
also
image
stood out to
behind
me.
The Monarchs one. It's just a little chaotic, but I do like the image. Like, I appreciate the visual.
I like the font. I feel like it's an interesting design. The Radiance one doesn't take any chances, but it also does a good job with the basic things. It has the team logo. It's got a little bit of design element to it, but it just clearly states everything that's going on. I guess I would prefer Raleigh Radiance to be bigger text and 2025 roster to be smaller, but it has numbered roster with clear, easy to read names. That checks a simple box. No coaches listed. maybe a question mark.
It's better than Notes app, right? It's better. Don't give me this
No, I
Notes
think
app
Notes
crap
app
anymore.
still the dub.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
All right, let's take a look at the schedule. This is what we got coming up for week 1. We've got Surge at Indy Red, Raleigh at Los Angeles. That's right, Raleigh at Los Angeles. We have to reframe our brains that LA is in this league now. And Austin at Atlanta.
You don't think of you mean you don't think of LA as being in the South? That's just roll off the tip of the tongue.
Is this LA team going to have a chance to beat a traveling Raleigh team that has struggled to win on the road at times?
Yeah, I think so. You got to think that having some travel advantage. I mean, they're going to have to go through it themselves when they go the other way. Although I feel like their road trip, they play some teams that I have not had as much success in the league. I do think that getting Raleigh and DC at home is going to open up some opportunities for LA to potentially take an upset and kind of open things up on the right foot.
You want to let's pick winners for each of those games. I'm taking Philly.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
I'm still going to take Raleigh. I mean, I don't know who they're sending on this trip, but I'm still going to take Raleigh to win. It's tough to win on the road, though. And give me Austin over Atlanta. I'm taking all road teams. That's probably not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, can I take LA? Yeah, I think I am going to take LA.
I don't hate it.
I also expect a closer game. Like I would take Indy to cover, presumably, over what I think the public line would be. I think this Indy team could be sneaky this year, but they're not going to have to be Philly, I don't think.
I mean, it's all about who gets sent on these trips,
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, Rachel
kind of have to
Mast
just
and Co. for
speculate
Indy,
on that.
solid. All right. So you want to pick your semis teams, your championship weekend teams? Who are you going with?
Yeah, I mean, I still think you got to take DC and New York on one side, and then well, you take DC, New York, and then what? Philly and I don't know. I guess Raleigh. I guess I go back to the well. If I'm going to pick up to lose to LA, does that mean I need to pick LA? I don't. They've got a tough schedule.
No,
if they lose that LA game, they're going to be like they have to play at DC and at New York this year. So like
I know
they could be in a tough spot if they actually lose this LA game.
And like LA gets to play at home against the Shadow too. LA plays at Philly, at Atlanta, and like they can beat Atlanta. I actually think that LA, because of the travel element, has a pretty good line to a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think I've talked myself into picking LA to make it, which I don't know how I got here, but if I'm gonna pick LA to win this game against Raleigh, I think that gives them such a huge leg up to win. I mean,
look at this,
make it to championship weekend.
This Raleigh schedule is crazy. I mean, they get to play home against Atlanta. That's an easy win, but they have to go at LA, then they have to go at New York. Then they go at DC, and they're home against Austin. But like, it's easy to see them going 2-3, like winning their home games, losing their road games. They will be the clear underdog in both those road DC and New York games. So they kind of have to win this LA game, which makes me want to pick them. So I'm sticking with it.
Oh, I like how you reasoned your way into that.
But let's see. I'm taking from the north. Give me New York and Philly. I mean, I just still think I guess Minnesota's got a chance. But I'll take Philly.
I don't think it's written that Philly is going to make it.
And in the South, I'm definitely taking DC, and I'll take Raleigh. Redemption year.
Okay.
So
I see where you're coming from.
ultimately, I got to take New York to repeat this year. I just think like the skill on the team is the highest in the league, and they look fantastic last year.
You got to take New York over DC, right? Like,
Yes,
where else?
I
Where
think
else are
so.
you gonna go?
I'm nowhere.
Max
it's time for
Charles
a
isn't even in
mailbag.
the YouTube chat shouting out Philly. Like, you know that must be they're cooked, right? If Max Charles isn't in there hyping them up.
It's time for our mailbag question of the week. What do we got this week, Keith?
All right, this week's mailbag question of the week. After the college regular season, do your biggest U24 snubs change at all? Snubbed from tryouts and snubbed from the team. So, do your biggest U24 snubs change at all? I feel like, man, after all this World Games talk, I have to like go back to try and get my U24 bearings again.
Well, my short answer is no. I just don't know that I feel like I saw anybody. I mean, I still feel like Xavier Fusat should have been taken and didn't get taken. But like that, nothing about this season really changed my mind about that. Like I already knew he was good, and he had a good season. Who else got snubbed? I'm like, I can't remember the snubs for U24 anymore.
I can remember that Quincy Booth did not get a spot. She did go to tryouts, but she did not get picked. She's kind of a unique player, but she's definitely real good as someone who lost to her twice in the past 3 days or 4 days.
I'm trying to go back into Discord.
Yeah, I have to go pull up the list to try and see what we got. All right. I have our picks in front of us too.
Yeah, let's get some picks and who and the players that didn't make it from our picks, because that can help us.
I feel like we
had
some locks that didn't make it. I feel like, because you had in your locks you had like, Toby Brooks, Dexter Clyburn, Micah Glass, Peter Borth, Will Brandt, Declan Miller, Rutledge Smith, Zeppelin Ronig, Kyle Liu, Anton Orm, Will Selfridge, other ones of the big subs. Justin Burnett, Paul Krennic. And then you had Erica Birdsong, Fina, Tori Gray, Chloe Akimi, Krebs, Emily Kemp, Khalil Phillips, Trout Waybright, Cyrus Linkfield, Carolyn Stone, Grace Maroon, Abby Schiltz, Devin Quinn, Emily Posey, Mia Beeman-Weber, and Margot Nissen. Those were your locks going in.
Remind me which of those players didn't make it, because most of them did.
Yeah, we had very few, I think, that we missed.
I mean, Fazad, of course. I don't know. I honestly, no. I think the answer is no. I don't think anybody, like, keep in mind, a number of these players are no longer in college. So that's part of it. But
yeah,
I just think
that's true.
The obviously great players from this season made the team, and nobody played up so well that I'm like, wow, how did they not get picked? And the players that I already felt that way about, I still feel that way after the college season. So maybe that's a boring answer, but that's just the truth.
Yeah, I think there hasn't been a ton of people who've like distributed. I'd say there's probably more people who I feel like I'm surprised didn't get a tryout, but you also, it's so hard to like go back and figure out why people were or were not at tryouts. Like it's not like we get a list of who applied and didn't apply for tryouts.
Right.
So that list is even harder to craft. But yeah, I think the ones that we highlighted at the beginning, like I don't have any reason to doubt them now. The Will Selfridge, the Quincy Booths, the Xavier Fusats.
Yep.
Those are definitely surprising.
I'm right there with you. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. This time next week, we should have final USAU bid allocations for college regionals. So we will break all of that down. And we got a couple weeks till regionals, and then we're on the path to college nationals. Can't wait. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. Don't miss us in the sub bonus segment live in Discord right after this. Get yourself a subscription today at ultiworld.com/subscribe. We'll talk to you next week right here live on Deep Look, noon Eastern, Tuesdays. My brackets are 99th percentile and 96th percentile for men's and women's March Madness.